Hello, and welcome to the latest Picks and Ponderings video preview. I'm Nicolle Neulist. I'll be doing this alone, although please watch the video as well of my cohort, Paul Major. He did a video preview of the Red Smith out at Aqueduct. I, on the other hand, I'm going to Laurel. Laurel has a fantastic card this Saturday, and it is anchored by the Frank DeFrancis Memorial Dash. Despite being called a dash, it's a 6-furlong dirt sprint. It's named in honor of Frank DeFrancis, who was a lawyer by trade, but he was instrumental in the fact that Maryland racing is as successful a thing as it is. He bought a struggling harness track back in 1980, renamed it Free State Raceway, and it became successful. It started having more stakes races, more higher profile horses. Then he bought Laurel in 1984, and then he bought Pimlico and helped bring those tracks back to prominence as well. He passed away in 1989, and the next year, 1990, they inaugurated the DeFrancis Dash. It did used to be graded. It was a grade 2 back in the mid-90s, then upgraded to a grade 1 from 97 to 2009. Unfortunately, because it wasn't run in 2008 or 2010 due to some struggling times in Maryland racing, it lost its grade. However, the last couple of years, they've done a lot to try to restore the race to its former glory, and it would be no surprise to see the race get a grade back one of these days. And even though it's not graded again yet, it still carries a $350,000 purse and still draws a legit grade 3 type field at least. Over the years, there have been some big name sprinters who have won it, like Eclipse Award winners Housebuster, Cherokee Run, Smoke Glacken, Benny the Bull, and it always draws a few locals trying to make good, and sometimes they win, like Northern Wolf or even Immortalized a couple of years ago. This year's field drew a field of 9, and it is about half locals trying to make good and about half heavier hitting sprinters shipping in. And the horse who looms as the one to beat is Linda Rice's Palace, the number 3 horse. Palace at his best should beat anyone in this field in their current form. That said, he's probably going to be pretty chalky doing it. He didn't go to the Breeders' Cup Sprint this year. Instead, he was last out beating a New York bred stakes field. And he didn't crush them as his odds-on odds suggested he probably should have. But that said, he was a little further off the pace than he normally likes to be, and he still dug in and got the job done. Linda Rice probably made the right call by not sending him, wheeling him back in the Breeders' Cup like she did with Lover Dodd, who also won a state-bred sprint stakes that weekend, did wheel back, and finished second going 7 furlongs. So good on Linda Rice and good for her. Still, though, his speed figures are good. He still is just one of those sprinters that consistently fires. And he's one you have to use. He's going to get a little pace to run at with the speedy likes of Spring to the Sky and Trouble Kid in the field as well. They're fast. They like to be on the front end, and they stand to cause some pace for the off-pace types to rally into. That said, I'm not really interested in betting Palace at extremely short odds on the class rise from a New York bred stakes race into something that is a tougher field than he faced last out. So I'm going to take a little bit of a swing on a horse who don't know if he's the same, probably isn't, but has some back lines that would absolutely crush this field and does come in second off the lay. And that is the number 8, Gentleman's Bet. Gentleman's Bet was on fire back in 2013 and then got injured, dropped off the face of the earth for over a year. He returned at Oaklawn and second off the lay, won the listed Hot Springs Stakes there. That was a wire job, although he does have some back lines as well where he can sit, a length or so off the pace. And, he's shown some grit in some of his efforts, having to shake someone off and get the win. So I'm a little less worried about him than I am, say, a Spring to the Sky or a Trouble Kid. After that Hot Springs, he kind of went south again, was off for another few months, and then he showed up in the Phoenix. He went off at almost 60-1, finished a not exactly threatening 5th behind Run Happy. That said, he's not facing the likes of a Run Happy, a Work All Week, a Barbados here in the De France's Dash. The waters are a little shallower, and maybe the Phoenix was just too much too soon. One thing that stands out about Gentleman's Bet is that he gets the sharp local jockey. Daniel Centeno takes the reins for the first time, and he's firing at 22% on this Laurel meet. So in Gentleman's Bet, you've got a horse with some back class, second off the lay, for a trainer, Ron Moquette, who wins a quarter of the time in non-graded stakes, and you're going to get a far better price on Gentleman's Bet than you're going to get on Palace. He has enough of a shot to succeed at a better price that, assuming that he doesn't get bet down to chalk, Gentleman's Bet is my bet. That said, my second choice is Palace because he is in good form right now. Maybe not his career best form, but he doesn't have to beat a figure in this field, and sometimes the best horse just wins. For third, I'm going to go most of the way inside to the 2, and that's Stallwalkin' Dude. Stallwalkin' Dude did race last out in the Breeders' Cup Sprint. Finished a not exactly threatening 8th, beaten 4 3/4. But again, just like with Gentleman's Bet, and really even more so, the waters are way shallower for Stallwalkin' Dude here than they were in his last start. And if you look back against fields that aren't, Run Happy, Private Zone, Favorite Tail, top national level sprinters, you see a really consistent horse. He's run 15 times this year, and 12 of those he's been on the board. That last out he was 8th, but his last 9 starts he finished on the board. Third, beaten a neck in the Vosburg. First by a nose in the Tail of the Cat. Second, beaten ahead by Wildcat Red in the Teddy Drone. So, some decent form lines against some decent horses. Game, fighter, always right there. Another nice thing about Stallwalkin' Dude is he's got a little versatility in the way he can run. He can win a race on the front end. He can win a race from just off. He can rally from well off. I don't see him being that front end type, particularly with Spring to the Sky, Certain to Send, and Trouble Kid as well. But that's the nice thing about Stallwalkin' Dude is he doesn't have to be. You've got a trainer, David Jacobson, who means business when he ships his horses. His shippers win a quarter of the time. His sprinters win a quarter of the time. It's a little odd not to see Cornelio Velasquez back in the irons because Cornelio Velasquez is Stallwalkin' Dude's regular rider as well as Jacobson's regular rider. That said, you got to give it a pass here because Cornelio Velasquez is also Palace's regular rider, and you're not going to say no to the mount on a horse like Palace, particularly in a field like this. So the rider change doesn't worry much, and really, he gets a pretty good rider in John Velasquez. Not going to complain too much about that switch. He's versatile, he's consistent, he's getting back into horses that are of the caliber that he's always right there against. So for my third choice, I am going to go with the number 2, Stallwalkin' Dude. Among the long shots, as I said, it's a field of about half heavier weight shippers and about half Laurel horses. And among the Laurel horses, there were 2 that I considered pretty closely. One of them was the number 4, Sunny Inspired. One of those was the number 7, Jackson the Deck. Sunny Inspired is really the Laurel horse for the course. He's been on the board 6 of 8 at Laurel, but he's a little flaky going 6 furlongs, and I'm not sure about the blinkers off on, a horse who has been doing pretty well with the blinkers on. I'm not sure why they're going off, and also he does look to be a little slow for this field. So even though he's going to be a longer shot, and if you love that horse for the course angle, then maybe Sunny Inspired's your thing, there's a little more to recommend the number 7, Jackson the Deck. Jackson the Deck last out ran in the Maryland Million Sprint, so an easier field against state-bred stakes company. But he showed game. He showed will. He was just off the pace early, on the front end, fought. Ben's Cat, a horse who knows where the wire is and about as game as they come, tried to get by, and Jackson the Deck said no. Jackson the Deck wanted the wire just as bad, probably worse on that day, and got the best of Ben's Cat by a nose. Even though aside from that, his performance in more recent stakes races has been, little not so good. Maybe that Maryland Million Sprint outing suggests he's getting back into the better form that he showed maybe earlier this year, late last year. The speed figures are also definitely better with him than they are with any of the other Laurel local mid-Atlantic type horses. Pace-wise, he stalks off the pace early and does so pretty reliably. So not worried about Jackson Deck getting locked in with the likes of Spring to the Sky and Trouble Kid early. He also has 2 wins over the Laurel main track and 4 wins in 12 starts over the 6 furlong distance. So when it comes to a longer shot in this race, looking at one of the Laurel locals, I like the number 7, Jackson the Deck. So to recap, in the DeFrancis Dash, race number 10 at Laurel on Saturday, post time 4:10 Eastern, going 6 furlongs on the dirt, I like the number 8, Gentleman's Bet, the number 3, Palace, the number 2, Stall-Walking Dude, and as a longer shot, the number 7, Jackson the Deck. Before I sign off, we've been doing these video previews for a few weeks now, since the week of the Cicero and the Stickney back at Hawthorne. We've done them through the Breeders' Cup and beyond, and now that we've done a few and you've seen what we can do, Picks and Ponderings wants to know, what are your thoughts? Would you like us to continue to do video previews? Would you like us to switch off a bit and do some video previews, some writing? Would you rather we pick up the pens instead of the video cameras? Let us know. Please tweet at us at @PicksPonderings on Twitter, or leave a comment right here in the blog, or look at the contact page and send either or both of us an email. We've been doing this for a while, and we want to know if you think we should continue. Thank you in advance for your input, and thank you for listening to my preview of the DeFrancis Dash. Good luck.